Grounded for Life is a comedy sitcom that first premiered on Fox in 2001. It follows Sean and Claudia Finnerty as they raise their kids and go through the everyday struggles of being parents with a teenage daughter. Along for the ride is Sean's brother Eddie, who is a very eccentric guy to say the least, and of course their dad Walt, who often keeps the kids Jimmy and Henry in check, while at the same time letting Sean know that he needs to do better. A main focus in the show is Lily, Sean's daughter. She is often misbehaving and hanging out with her boyfriend Brad, who is a recurring character throughout the series. The two younger brothers, Jimmy and Henry, you never know what they're going to get into next, but it'll surely be something that makes Grandpa Walt frown down on them. When Sean gets home from work, he always has something new to deal with. His wife, his kids, or his crazy brother trying to pull off a scheme or criminal act like stealing cable TV. When Grounded for Life first premiered, viewers gravitated to the show because of its hilarious plot lines, the chemistry of the cast, and overall how relatable it was to everyday life. The show ran for 5 seasons and consisted of 91 episodes in total, coming to an end in January of 2005. The Grounded for Life pilot, titled Lily Be Good, showed up on Fox on January 10th, 2001. However, today, we're going to be talking about this pilot that was created in May of 2000, produced by Fox Television Studios. This tape reads, Grounded for Life, aka Don't Get Me Started. So this was probably the working title for the show. On the VHS tape, it says Pilot Presentation. We have a total runtime of 22.5 minutes, so we're in for an actual full pilot episode. Let's jump into it. So right away, we see that Grandpa Walt is replaced by Stephen Root, who you may know from films like Dodgeball, Office Space, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and No Country for Old Men. He also voiced Bill and Buck Strickland in King of the Hill. Another thing I noticed about this episode is that the plotline is totally different than the 2001 pilot. Walt is still talking down to his sons, like in the final show, and I do see that this version of Walt actually looks a lot like Sean, as opposed to his dad in the final show. In the pilot, Steven doesn't seem to be hitting the comedy punchlines as well as the Walt we all know and love, but I must say, I do enjoy his passive-aggressive tone when talking to Sean. I could definitely see the chemistry building between these two in the long run if he stayed in the show. So we start the episode. After a few shenanigans at home, Sean begins to tell Claudia what happened earlier that day. Sean and Eddie made their way to the theme park and found Lily there with her drunk friends. At this point, we cut back to the kitchen where the story is being told, and we get another scene with Stephen Root. As per usual, he is telling Sean about how to raise his kids. Then, we get a flashback scene of Eddie and Sean when they were kids. Admittedly, this scene was stale, and the comedy just didn't really work. Okay, back to the story of Sean and Eddie at the amusement park. As Sean attempts to leave the park to take Lily and her friends home, a band of security guards pulls up to stop him. The lead guard, named Hairplugs, is very confrontational and remembers that Sean and Eddie got banned from the theme park years ago. Sean respectfully tells the little guy that he only came to take his daughter home. The guard refuses to believe Sean, and this sends him into a rage.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it. So I'm not a dad.
No.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Because I just spent an hour and a half on the turnpike coming down here to get him just for the fun of it, right? You know, just for the sheer joy of driving 5 teenagers reeking of puke all the way back home, right? No. You know why? Because only a dad would get that screwed, right? Because only a dad works all week at his mind-numbing job, only to spend his precious Saturday night at a 5th grade theme park getting a 3rd degree from a cop with a duck on his badge.
Sir, the duck on my chest stands stands for this theme park's commitment.
No. Hey, how can you even call this a theme park, man? I don't get it.
He goes on about being a dad, and in masterful fashion, he steals this scene here. Donald Logue shows why he is the lead man in the show.
You know, because over here, right, you got the jungle part, all right, but then over here you got this whole other part with a rap on a skateboard, and then you turn the corner, and then it's, whoa, Spaceport 2000, you know, the year 2000, we're all gonna be living in space. Well, guess what? We're not! So what's the theme, man? What is the theme?
Ease up, man.
No, you ease up. I want you to tell me right now what the theme is.
Can't you make him stop?
Hey, he's a freak.
After going off on the security guard, Lily's friends think Sean is the cool dad. This doesn't sit right with him, so he takes every kid home and wakes up their parents to tell them individually what happened tonight. Lily, mad at her dad for ratting out her friends, wants to leave home and stay with her friend that night. Sean doesn't approve of this and hilariously barricades her in her room. As things go on in the house, Grandpa Walt makes these little remarks. I always enjoy the one-liners from him, Sean and Claudia, after this conversation, and now that pizza is here, are hanging out in the living room, talking about being parents and Lily's behavior. He has come to his senses and goes to talk with Lily. They reach a compromise and make things right with each other. This is a great, lighthearted scene between Lily and her dad, and is a strong ending to the episode. We close everything out with Sean, Claudia, Eddie, and Walt sitting at the table eating pizza. Everything is going fine, and the night is somewhat normal now. Then Lily enters the room, announcing she is going to dye her hair. Claudia notices that her sweater is stained and runs after her. Walt takes the opportunity to take one last shot at Sean about his parenting. Eddie gets too comfortable in the moment and mentions some antics that Sean and Eddie did behind Walt's back when they were kids. Walt says he is calling the police. Eddie follows him into the next room, saying he was joking. This is the end of the pilot episode. My immediate reaction to this episode is that it's good, but not great. Stephen Root definitely played the grandpa character a lot different than Richard Riley. He does look more like Sean, so he is more believable as his dad, but I think that's the only thing he has on the final Grandpa Walt. Now, let's compare the lost pilot to the official aired pilot titled Lily Be Good. We start off with the two boys playing a lava game and annoying their mom. Grandpa Walt enters the room and has a different energy about him than the beta grandpa played by Stephen Root. He directs attention and is pretty hard on the boys. Sean starts telling Claudia that he made a mistake with Brad, the guy Lily likes. After some failed attempts to call Brad's house phone, we go into the flashback sequence of what really happened earlier that day. Sean seen Lily kissing Brad in a car and decided to launch a bucket of chicken at the windshield. This scene is hilarious. Midway through the pilot, Sean catches a boy sneaking out of his house, and we meet Brad O'Keefe. He's quickly swept into the madness that is the Finnerty family household, as they hold him down against his will. To top it off, Eddie sits next to him and awkwardly asks, "Do you watch Oz?" After an interesting conversation between Sean and Lily about Claudia always stealing the spotlight around boys, Walt comes into the kitchen and starts yelling at the boys through the window. He then moves on to Sean, telling him why he has problems raising Lily. Lily walks in, dressed skimpy, and this turns into another father-daughter moment. The whole time, Brad is waiting on the couch. Sean comes to break the news to him that Lily and Brad aren't meant to be. Brad tells Sean that he actually likes Claudia. At this point, everyone in the room realizes that Brad isn't very smart, and the episode ends with Grandpa Walt continuing to micromanage Jimmy and Henry. Now that we have a feel of the two pilots, let's compare them and spot the differences. So for reference, we're going to call the unaired pilot Don't Get Me Started, since that was the working title for the show, or pilot. So Don't Get Me Started is funnier than Lily Be Good, in my opinion. There is two scenes I would compare here. The amusement park scene from Don't Get Me Started, and the scene where Sean throws the chicken at Brad and Lily while they're kissing. The fried chicken scene from Lily Be Good is hilarious, and an original joke. It really did set the tone for the comedy in the show. However, the amusement park scene where Sean runs into the security guard who threw him out years earlier is pure gold. Sean goes into a rant about being a father and absolutely crushes it. The security guard brings comedy to the scene as well, but we really see the acting chops of Donald Logue here, who plays Sean Finnerty. In my opinion, this is the scene that got the show greenlit, so I would have to give that point to Don't Get Me Started. Next, Lily Be Good feels a lot more structured. This is to be expected as the show had been in development for some time now, so the chemistry is more present with the cast. The Unaired Pilot feels a lot more stiff compared to Lily Be Good. I will admit that. Don't Get Me Started is definitely a bit more slow paced and doesn't flow as well as the official pilot. So for pacing, I would give that point to Lily Be Good. I'm unsure if the absence of the laugh track in the Unaired Pilot contributes to this or not. In the Don't Get Me Started pilot, the episode feels a lot more plot driven than the official pilot. To counter this, Lily Be Good definitely has more well-developed characters and feels more natural, so for this point, we can tie the pilots. The final comparison comes down to Grandpa Walt. If you've ever watched Grounded for Life, then you know that Walt is a main part of the show. He is the comedy relief of the show and is always strict when it comes to watching the kids. He is more forward with his energy and antics as opposed to Stephen Root's version of the character, who is more subtle and witty. As mentioned, Stephen Root looks a lot more like Sean Finnerty's dad, but some of his readings in the pilot were off and didn't hit like the Grandpa Walt we all know and love. Steven's version of Grandpa Walt felt more like an afterthought, but when we see Richard Riley's version of the character, he makes every second of screen time count. As much as I enjoyed the Unaired Pilot Don't Get Me Started, I couldn't imagine Grounded for Life without the Grandpa Walt we're used to seeing. He kinda made the show. Even though Lily Be Good is a fantastic pilot episode, and definitely won me over as a viewer, after watching both pilots back to back, I actually do prefer Don't Get Me Started. The story and pilot is very well written, and the amusement park scene with Sean and the security guard was the finishing touch that truly made this episode a classic. So there you have it, the Unaired Pilot episode of Grounded for Life. I'm so glad I could acquire this tape for my collection and show everyone once again what could have been. If you want to see a full breakdown and review of Don't Get Me Started, let me know in the comments section, and I will happily make that happen. Also, something really cool about this lost pilot is that there's a dog in the intro, and I don't remember a dog in the Grounded for Life show. So just another cool thing that they were going to try to do with the show. I really wonder how the dog would have played into the show. I think it could have been really entertaining. I hope everybody enjoyed today's video. Subscribe, like, and hit that hype button to keep Lost Media at the forefront of YouTube. And until next time, stay up late productions.